Welcome to Ancient Secrets. Like a podcast, it's a Zoom cast where you get the opportunity to meet God's actual cast. I'm Rabbi Flip of Congregation Micah in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm here to introduce you to the spiritual heroes of our Jewish past so that we might glean some practical wisdom for the present. After each interview, our guests will reveal their actual identities. They'll share a little bit about their own theology and the missions of the organizations they have dedicated their lives to serving. So put on your imagination caps and get ready for some practical advice to help us get through these tougher times. We have with us today on the program the founder of Hasidic Judaism. That's right, the Jewish religious revival movement which began in the Ukraine during the 18th century and spread rapidly through Eastern Europe. Well, with us today is its founding father. What a perfect guest during this pandemic. The leader of a religious group, noted partly for its social isolation. A preeminent mystic whose students tell legendary tales about his life, his behavior, and they trace his lineage all the way back to the royal house of David. Born in 1698, please welcome to the program Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer, known as the Baal Shem Tov, or by the acronym, the Besht, which means master of the good name, or one with a good reputation.
Blinded by the light, caught loose like a deuce, another runner in the night, blinded by the light.
Rabbi, with your permission, I'm going to conduct this interview in English. I know you prefer to speak Yiddish, but my Yiddish is not so good. Let me begin by expressing what a true honor it is to have such a distinguished and famous Jewish hero like yourself with us on the program.
Shalom Aleichem. As a feine talk zu sein dort mit dir. Mein Name ist der Baal Shem Tov. Oi. Du redest Yiddish? A bisschen English. I don't speak so well. Yes, thank you for having me. I will try to in my broken English, if that's what you prefer.
I think it would be better for our guests. Thank you. Listen, how have you been getting on during this difficult time of social distancing?
Oi, Rabbi Flip, don't ask. I've been doing very well, thank you. I lost my parents when I was a little boy. Before my father passed away, in the world to come, may he rest in peace. He told me he loved me and that Hashem loves me. And he will always be with me. He said, never, ever be afraid of anyone. So, Rabbi Flip, that stays with me all my life. This pandemic doesn't scare me. Plus, as you know, fear builds walls that bar the light. And we are the beings of light.
So well said. Yes, fear is in such abundance these days. I'm just so happy and honored you agreed to be part of our show to model that strength and faith that you have. And also so that people might get to know you and the profound effect you've had on Jewish spirituality. I mean, you founded a whole movement. Can you tell us more about it?
Rabbi Flip, with my American accent, it's truly a privilege to be here with you. You are very kind to think so highly of me. But there is no room for God in one who is filled only with himself. I would much rather discuss and elucidate people about this movement of which you speak, which became known as Hasidut. The word Hasid, or in English Hasid, means a pious one. People that serve God with piety. Back in the day, there were very few of us. If you will, we were called the Nistarim, Tzadikim Nistarim, righteous people who were hidden from this world. By the year 5494, or 1734 in the Gregorian calendar, it was revealed that I too was a mystic, as I was raised as a hidden tzaddik, a hidden righteous man. Together, our goal was to reinvigorate the spiritual lives of Jews across Eastern Europe, which a majority of the Jews of the world at that time lived. Some were in the Holy Land, some might have been in America at that time. Rabbi, I am always happy to talk theology with you, my dear friend. You are filling a deep void here for people in Nashville, and I miss such conversations given the pandemic?
Well, Rebbe, there's a great deal of mystery surrounding you and your life and your work. I'm just so pleased you could spend a little time with us to sort of set the record straight.
A little time. Time is all we have lately.
Well, speaking of time, is it true you began your career and worked for many years as a teaching assistant?
That was some time ago. Baruch Hashem. It was the most joyous time in my life. Teaching small children, picking them up from their homes and carrying them over the streams to go and learn the Aleph Beis, how to say Moda'ani, how simply to say the Shema Yisrael in the morning and when they went to bed, to recognize the existence of the Almighty God and everything that goes on in their life. That was one part of the most enjoyable days in my life. I learned everybody is unique. Compare not yourself with anybody else, lest you spoil God's curriculum.
And I believe I heard that you also spent some time as a shochet, like a ritual butcher?
Yes, Rabbi. I did that for a short stint in my early career. It had a very powerful effect on my life and how I value life. But a little while later, I taught another fellow Tzaddik Nistar how to go about that. And I spent more time with simple, sincere people, showing them how every individual has the power, the uniqueness within them to connect to God. It doesn't matter who you are or what you learned. Every Jew is precious in the eyes of God.
Yes, I mean, one of the great things we know about you and your reputation is that you appeared to so many as an ordinary man, when in reality, you were a Baal Shem. You were a truly gifted healer, a Jewish miracle worker. I mean, the greatest of in 4 generations.
I'll tell you the truth, Rabbi Flip. I never wanted to reveal myself to the world. I'd rather be in the background, helping people find meaning and purpose to life. They gave me the name, the Baal Shem Tov, which means the master of the good name. That's enough. Don't like to talk much about that.
I understand that, and being a rabbi at Micah, where we value humility, it makes sense to us. And yet, we need you. We need your power. We need some good old-fashioned healing. I mean, do you have anything for us?
Rabbi Flip, from every human being there rises a light that stretches all the way up to the heaven. And the world is new to us every morning. So everyone should believe they're given a new opportunity each day. Everyone listening should wake up every day and recite the beautiful words of Moda'ani, to be thankful, to be conscious that for your sake the world was created. Even in the craziness of this coronavirus, unless we believe that creation is renewed at every moment, as it is taught in the Hasidic teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, that every single moment God is recreating the world with new energy. It's not as if he once upon a time created and now it's on automatic pilot. Every moment it's new. And if we believe that every moment creation is new, then our prayers, if we don't believe that, then our prayers grow boring and tedious. But if you believe that every moment there's an opportunity to bring new energy in this world, then your prayers will be more meaningful. So you want me to pray for healing? I do this all the time. It's my supreme desire to bring the ultimate purpose of creation, the days of Mashiach, when our world will be a dwelling place for the absolute essence. And this is the culmination of the revelation of Kabbalah, which is Hasidic teachings, that each of us, you and I, must serve Hashem, the divine, in every aspect of our daily lives, but not just with mind, also with heart, with feeling. This is what the omnipresent desires. Our kavana, our intention, how we feel about it. It's not just walk the walk and talk the talk. If you incorporate your life with feeling, with simcha, ivdu as Hashem b'simcha, serve God with joy and happiness, your life will be filled with happiness, purpose, and meaning.
I think I'm getting it. it's just hard, right? There's a lot of these terms like Kabbalah and Hasidut and Hashem and Kavanah. And for some people, it's like you might as well be speaking English, right? Can you break it down a little bit more for us, please?
Very basic. Hasidic thought emphasizes the spiritual dimension of our lives and the devotion of our hearts. We can feel the presence of the holiness while dancing, even in the most mundane of tasks. There's a story about the students of the Baal Shem Tov. One was called Rabbi Elimelech, one was called Reb Zusha. And they took it upon themselves to follow in the footsteps of their teacher, the Baal Shem Tov, and traveled from town to town, meeting paupers. And they would collect alms like all the other beggars did. And like this, they became friends with simple people that didn't feel they had much to contribute to this world. And their mission was inspire others that everybody can make a difference in this world. One time they came to a city and they didn't have the permission to beg because in that town, the paupers, they had a mini union. And if you didn't have a license to beg, they would say you're stepping on their territory. So they came to town and they started begging for alms. And like this, they were going to influence others positively. But the beggars there didn't like that. So they had them thrown into prison for not having a license to be a pauper. These two of our students believed that everything is from God. And they knew that you have to serve God with joy even when there's a challenge. So they're in prison. And Rabbi Elimelech sees his brother, Reb Zusha, the student of the Baal Shem Tov, sad. He says, why are you sad? He says, you know why I'm sad? I got to pray. And I can't pray because in this room that we're in the prison, there's a bucket of urine, as that was what the prisoners were using. And a Jewish law says that you can't pray if there's not a good smell. So his brother says to him, what are you sad about? The same God that says to pray in the afternoon says, don't pray if you can't pray because it's not the right setting. Be happy. And his brother says to him, you know what? You're right. I'm going to be happy even if I can't pray because the Baal Shem Tov said, serve God with joy regardless of the circumstance. So he starts dancing because now he is fulfilling the will of God. He's not going to pray because there's not a good smell there. He starts dancing. The next prisoner starts dancing. And all of a sudden, 50 prisoners in the room, in the cell, start dancing. The guard looks to one of the other people. He said, what are these guys dancing over here? They're in prison. He said, I don't know. That Jew came in here. He saw a bucket of urine. So he started dancing. So the guard says, you know what? I'm going to pull the bucket out of here. And he'll stop dancing. He pulls the bucket out. And then one brother says to the other, you know what? Now you can go ahead and daven mincha. You can go ahead and serve God with joy. The lesson of this story is, regardless of what happens in life, the Baal Shem Tov said, find a way to serve God with joy. Whether it's accomplishing what you plan to accomplish, or whether there's a challenge. And now in the coronavirus, people haven't gone to synagogue in a while because they couldn't go. Should we be sad? Sure, we miss synagogue. But this is the will of God. Serve God with joy with the circumstances that are placed before you.
Such a beautiful story and so well spoken. It's exactly the kind of stuff we're hoping that will be revealed here on the program. What I'm getting from your understanding of Judaism is that a direct connection with the divine is possible for each and every one of us almost anywhere. Can you comment more on it?
Exactly, Rabbi Flip. Words of wisdom. It sounds like God is speaking through you, almost like Moses at Mount Sinai. You see, there's a word called devekut, which means to cling. We clinging to the Holy One can be a great source of strength. When you pray, when you study, when you perform a mitzvah, which is God's commandment, which also means a connector, when you perform this, it brings you closer and closer to God. But you know, Rabbi Flip, when I was a child and my father passed away, he told me, don't be afraid of anyone. I want you to hang out with my friends, the hidden tzaddikim. You know where they lived? They spend most of their time in the forest. And he told me, don't be afraid of the bears and the snakes and the animals. Only be afraid of God. When I spent my time wandering in the forest, I would sit there alone and sometimes meditate on the beauty of God's creation in the world. And even when following my distracting thoughts, they inevitably, when I looked around and saw the beautiful wonders of creation, it led me back to think about Hashem. What I'm saying, Rabbi Flip, is that during this time when it's hard for all of us to be together, go out into the wilderness, go out into the great outdoors. Tennessee is the greenest state in the land of the free. See and discover the beauty of Hashem in the great outdoors. You know, the Baal Shem reminds me of the story when I once told my students how God is involved in every detail in life. They said, Rabbi, show it to us. And we went out to the forest, and the wind was blowing. And I told my students, look at that leaf, let's follow it. And we followed the leaf as it was blowing, and then the wind stopped, and the leaf stopped at the edge on the corner. And I told my students, let's take a look closely. What happens now? All of a sudden, as that leaf was sitting on the edge on the corner, a little worm crawled upon the leaf and had what to eat for lunch that day. I told my students, God directs every detail in this world. It's called divine providence. You won't only find God in the synagogue. You will find God at home. God's place of dwelling can be found in your own intimate space. We just need to reveal it. He's involved in every minute detail, even to feeding that little worm who needed that leaf to blow off that tree and land right where it was. And that is one of the greatest teachings that I have hoped, and I hope for the next millennia until the time of Mashiach, that everyone incorporates into their life the idea of divine providence. In Hebrew, hashgacha pratit. Every detail is ordained and orchestrated by the divine God in heaven.
Wow, I've found it very helpful to spend time outside and hiking in the parks. That's certainly a tactic during this time that I've been using myself. Any other good old-fashioned sort of practical wisdom for us about how to get through this unsettling time?
I'll tell you, Rabbi Flip, since the Jewish community cared so much for me when I was orphaned as a child, I love every one of the members of the Jewish community dearly. I have devoted my entire life to helping ease the physical and spiritual distress of my fellow Jews. I also explore the mysteries of the mystical side of Judaism. Study can be a meaningful and fulfilling use of time when we are sequestered like this. Yet as I matured spiritually, I came to realize that every single thing we see and hear is an instruction in our conduct, as I shared hashgacha pratit. Please allow me for a moment to share another story if I can. You know, part of what I used to do is travel from town to town and stop at inns to inspire the innkeepers, the simple people, to pray. They didn't have to be rabbis or scholars or mystics. God listens to everyone's voice. One day I came to this inn, we called it a kretschme, which means an inn that was rented by the Jew from the nobles, from the non-Jewish landlords. And the Jew would rent it, and he would make his income by selling. He would have a tavern, people would come by and buy a drink, and he supported himself and his wife and his kids. And that's how he lived. I came to this inn and I stayed there. And I saw this Jew, seemed like a very simple but yet sincere Jew. He took care of us. He gave us everything we need. We stayed there for the night. And in the morning, I wanted to leave and thank him. But I saw him pray. So I figured I will wait 30 minutes until he finishes praying. Yet I waited 30 minutes. He wasn't finished. I thought I'll wait an hour. An hour turned into 2, into 3, into 4. 5 hours later, this simple Jew finishes prayer. This man doesn't know I'm the Baal Shem Tov. I go over to him. I say, wow, such a God-fearing person. But what took you 5 hours to pray? It's not the high holidays now. He says, I don't know. He pulls out the book from the shelf, and he pulls out a book, and he says, I open the prayer book, and I read the first page is the morning prayers. I read 30, 40 pages. I go to the afternoon prayers, then the evening prayers, then the Shabbos prayers, then the Rosh Hashanah, then the Yom Kippur, and I go from page 1 to page 500. It takes me 5 hours. The Baal Shem Tov says to him, no. You don't got to do that. You only need to pray the morning prayers in the morning, afternoon prayers in the afternoon, and the evening prayers in the evening, and Shabbos is 1 day a week, and Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, 1 day a year, 2 days a year. And he says, can I put bookmarks into your book? The Baal Shem Tov puts bookmarks into every one of the different prayers, so this person could know what to pray at the right time. This man thanks the Baal Shem Tov for saving him. He gives him a gift of 3-4 hours a day. The Baal Shem Tov leaves. As the Baal Shem Tov leaves, 10 minutes later, this man's child climbs up on the table, sees a book with colorful bookmarks. He goes and he pulls them all out so he can color his crafts and do what a child does. This man loses himself. He goes, oh my God, I just had my whole day revised and I had a many new hours in my day. And he starts running after the Baal Shem Tov to get the bookmarks fixed. He runs and the Baal Shem Tov is ahead. He runs and the Baal Shem Tov is ahead. And he can't catch up. And he sees eventually there's a stream, there's a river up ahead. He says, now I will catch him. Yet as he gets close to the river, he sees the Baal Shem Tov was known to be a miracle maker. He was able to change the ways of nature because God gave him the energy and the spiritual power to do so. And the Baal Shem Tov takes a handkerchief out of his pocket and he waves it over the stream and the water recedes. And the Baal Shem Tov goes through and the water goes back up. Now this man gets to the river. He saw the Baal Shem Tov put his hand in his pocket. He doesn't know anything. He's a simple guy. He puts his hands in his pocket, pulls out his handkerchief, waves it over the water. The water goes down. He gets to the other side. He catches the Baal Shem Tov. He goes, Baal Shem Tov, you got to help me. My bookmarks, it fell out. The Baal Shem Tov turns around, looks at the man, looks at the river. He says, tell me, how did you just cross that river? He goes, I don't know. I just saw you take your handkerchief, wave it over the water. It went down. I took my handkerchief, waved it over the water, and it went down. The Baal Shem Tov said, go back and pray all your 500 pages every day. God loves sincere people like you. You see, Rabbi Flip, the lesson of this story is that when we are sincere, when we serve God from our heart, with simplicity, sincerity, and with joy, we can accomplish everything and anything we wish for in our lives. And that is what I hope to impart on this world, the power of every individual.
Such powerful stories with such powerful messages. This is exactly what we're looking for. We're so happy you could be with us. Do you have any final thoughts before I reveal your true identity?
We are all, Rabbi Flip, we are all on a journey and have daily struggles. When we connect daily with God and serve God with joy, our lives are filled with meaning and purpose. Every person should consider themselves as a candle. A candle is known that when you light a candle and it's dark, you can fill every nook and cranny, every corner of your life and your space with light. The way we light that candle is by fulfilling the wishes, the will of the Almighty God. Everyone has a great potential to reach great heights. It is stated in Hasidic mystical teachings that the body of the human is the wax of a candle. The soul is the wick, and the mitzvot and the prayer and the Torah study are the flame on the candle. Every person born into this world, Jew and Gentile alike, has the potential to light that candle and to make this world a brighter place. And I encourage everyone to make their lives filled with meaning and purpose by lighting their own candle. The Baal Shem Tov said a very powerful line. He said, every person is given everything in their capacity how to light that candle. Meaning to say, everything is placed in front of us, how we can bring light in this world. But God is not going to do it for us. We need to light our own candle. And that is really what we hope when we wake up in the morning and we say, thank you, God, for another day of life. We say, Moda Ani. And not only do we thank God for another day of life, we say that we're going to make today a better day than yesterday. And that is the big part of the teachings of Hasidism, the power of the individual to make a difference in this world.
Well, your movement has had a profound effect on how people understand Jewish life and how to be joyous. And I'm joyous to call you a friend. Before we reveal your true identity, let's just have a word from our sponsor.
Ancient Secrets is brought to you by Congregation Micah, a vibrant synagogue serving all of Middle Tennessee, offering creative and diverse ways to celebrate Jewish life using the rich beliefs and practices of progressive Judaism as its foundation.
And now we're back with the man who played Rabbi Israel, the son of Eliezer, known as the Besh, the Baal Shem Tov. My dear friend for almost 15 years now, Rabbi Yitzhak Teitel of Chabad. I know him to be passionate about doing Judaism joyously, and his love of Jewish people is infectious. He and his wife Esther established the local branch here of Chabad Lubavitch International just before the Rabbi's Rice arrived in Nashville. And when we did come to town, he was very welcoming, and we became instant friends. Rabbi Titel, I want to thank you for your willingness to join me today. I love our relationship and sharing the stories like you did with us all the time on our walks. And we would love for you, the community, to know a little bit more about what makes you tick and who you are, and sort of what makes you get out of the bed in the morning and what keeps you up at night.
Firstly, Rabbi Flip, I want to wish you and I a happy 50th birthday. We both came down into this world just 2 weeks apart, just about 50 years ago, this week, last week, or the week before. And I believe everything is divine providence, as I just shared with you about the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. And it's by divine that you and I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee, walking the walk and talking the talk. And literally, have walked many hours together, Percy Warner Parks, with many beautiful conversations. And the most beautiful thing is, you might be a Reform rabbi and I might be the Chabad rabbi, but we see so much that we have in common, that we have one Father in heaven. And we all have the same mission, to make this world a godly place. And we each do it in our own way, but we follow the ways that our heart calls us to serve God with simcha, with joy. I'm honored to have played the role of the Baal Shem Tov. I am far from the Baal Shem Tov. I am a disciple of his studies, of his teachings. See, the Baal Shem Tov, when he passed on, eventually his students became the founder and the leader of the Chabad movement over 200-something years ago, known as the Alter Rebbe in Russia. And for 6 generations, the Chabad movement was in Russia, and they kept Yiddishkeit, Judaism, going. It was only in 1940 when the 6th Chabad Rebbe came over, one of the last boats that crossed the Atlantic. And when he came off the boat, people told him, "Rabbi, forget about the beard, forget about the hat. That was all in Russia. This is America." And he said 3 words in Yiddish that became his mission statement. America is nicht anders. America's no different. And who would have imagined 75 plus years ago, in 1940, it's 80 years already, who would have imagined the way Judaism is today, thriving, booming in 2020? This was the vision of the 6th Chabad Rebbe. He led for 10 years. And on his passing in 1950, the Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson of blessed memory, became the leader of the Chabad movement. He had a vision to take the teachings of all of the Chabad Rebbes, starting with the founder of the Chabad, of Hasidism, the Baal Shem Tov. And that is, that there shouldn't be a community in the world that does not experience the joys of Judaism. And he had a vision to put a lighthouse of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism, wherever there's a Jewish community in the world. And his vision is a reality today. From 1950 to 2020, in the last 70 years, his vision has become something that anyone who travels anywhere in the world has a Chabad couple who uprooted themselves from their home, from their upbringing, from their family, when they got married a year or 2 later with 1 child, or maybe sometimes 2, and moved to a corner in the world where they had no family, no friends, they didn't know anybody, but they went there with one mission: to make this world a godly place. My wife and I were both raised in Chabad families. I'm the oldest of 13 children. And when I grew up, everyone has a vision what they want to do, what they want to become. My vision was to be a shliach, to be a representative of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, to move to a community where we know we can represent something much greater than who we are. We are all humble servants in the eyes of God. So my wife and I moved here 23 years ago, God willing, this July, with a vision and a mission. We love the life we live the life we love. We dream, we sleep, we eat, we work. Everything we do is to make this world a godly place and prepare it for the coming of the Mashiach. This was the vision of the Baal Shem Tov. I know this is going to be a shorter segment that you might edit me out. Some of this can be for the record. My friend, the Baal Shem Tov is known to have gone up to heaven. He was a holy spiritual man. It wasn't just you and I. Maybe it was Rabbi Flip. It wasn't I. And he asked Mashiach, when are you going to come? And you know what Mashiach told him? When the well springs of godliness will reach out to the furthest corners of the world. The Rebbe's mission was to fulfill that vision, that's what the Baal Shem Tov experienced, that we are now closer to that era more than ever before. You and I are each have that potential to be that shliach, to be that person. We are all lamplighters. We can make a difference. You know what a lamplighter is? A lamplighter takes a candle and lights another candle. He doesn't diminish his own. When I give $1 to charity, I do a good deed, but my pocket's a little lighter. I gave away $1. But when I share my light with you, when I take my candle and I light your candle, all I'm doing is adding more light, but I'm not minimizing my own light. It's not all I am doing. What I am really doing is creating light, making this world a godly place where Mashiach can come soon. But living in Nashville, I learned the importance of Southern culture. I came from New York. I grew up in a real African-American community. Today it's hip in the news, what's going on. But in my community live two types of people, Hasidim and African-American, mostly a community of over 1 million African-Americans from the Caribbean islands. With everything going on now in the world, I asked myself a question this past weekend. Do I know what it feels like to be a black man in America today? Can I imagine what it is to jog around the neighborhood late at night and to feel someone suspicious about me? Sure, as Jews, we have suffered from some form of anti-Semitism in our lives. Many innocent Jews have died just for the crime of being Jewish, and we know very well what it means to be a victim of senseless murder and terror attacks. But if I have to be honest myself, does that give me the perspective of a black man? Does our millennia of suffering naturally make us more sensitive to the discrimination to others who don't look like us or behave like us? And the answer is no. Because naturally, we prefer to see the world through our own lens. And naturally, we gravitate towards things that we're familiar with. We connect with people who look like us, who think like us, and behave like us. And sadly, some of us become uncomfortable when we encounter people that seem different than us. My friends, there's an essential message in the Torah and in Hasidism that we must learn to transcend our own natural tendencies and to overcome our shortcomings and to view the world not as we see it, but as God sees it. And he teaches this to us in Hasidic teachings. And this is very true for every part of our world. It's true for seeing the potential and holiness in everything. There's a potential of holiness in food, in the food we eat, and there's a potential of holiness in what we do with our money. And it is true for how we study the inner dimensions of Torah. And in everything we see in this physical world, there's a potential for it to become holy. And it's also true for mitzvot, not just between man and God, between man and man. And when we need to look at this divine spark that we can see in other people, are we all the same? Yes, we all have a divine spark, an image of God within us. But more than being just molded in the same cast, we actually, it says in Chassidus and Tanya, of Echad L'Kulana, we have one Father in heaven. So can I say, is George Floyd my brother? Yes, we have one Father in heaven. We have a different mother. We all have different mothers. We have different upbringings, different cultures. Our DNA is not the same. We grew up in different homes with different role models and different worldviews. But one of the most fundamental truths in life, and it's important for us to remember because that's the only way we're going to have a better world, and it's taught to us in Hasidic teachings, is not to get distracted by the shell and packaging of this earth. We understand that every created being, even George Floyd, and even Jamal, and even Trevor, and even Tyrone, they all have a spark of godliness. It's called a soul. In Hebrew, it's called an neshama. And that's their core of their definition. And this really isn't here a statement of the complex issues of racism or prejudice in our country. And it's not a signal of support to any group or political agenda. It's simply a question that we, as Jews, trying to live in a transformative life of truth and meaning, need to honestly ask ourselves. What is that question? Am I being materialistic or spiritual? Am I being distracted by petty, insignificant externalities, or am I living a deeper existence with a focus on the true value of life? Am I only able to see what I can buy with money, or am I able to see the greater good that money can achieve? Am I able to see the soul of my brother?
Yeah, I have like several reactions. You talk to some of the things that you say. I have to sort of digest it a little bit. I might have to go back and listen to this myself again. I love our relationship because we do see somewhat similarly about certain things and yet differently about others. You spoke earlier about divine providence, and I would almost argue differently and arrive at the same conclusions that you would, which is to say that I believe religions in general were largely created to help explain how to exist and live in this sort of unknowable, unfathomable universe that's filled with uncertainty. We've seen a lot of uncertainty in the pandemic, and that provides a lot of anxiety for people. And yet, like I said, we end up in the same place, and that is every reaction we can do, anything, whether it's eating or working or anything we do, can be elevated and made holy. And I think you and I just sort of completely agree on that. And we also share this vision. It's a messianic vision where the world could be at peace. And I think as you have witnessed and testified beautifully to, and as everyone in our country is now witnessing, that there is not enough love. and we should see that divine spark in each of us. I know Chabad is this sort of international presence, and it's always fun to sort of explain. It's part of what I'm trying to do, like Chochma, Bina, Da'at, right? Wisdom, insight, knowledge, that Chabad itself is actually an acronym. I don't know, maybe you want to say a few more things about what you and Esther have been able to do here locally. Tell us a little bit more about
Sure.
the house. Sure.
Thank you. Yes, I always enjoy talking to you, Rabbi Flip. We learn so much from each other. We respect one another. And even when we agree to disagree, we know that we're in the same business here. At the end of the day is bringing people closer to God and really fulfilling the word of Hashem in everything we do.
I got to interrupt. There was recently I was thinking about, people say, are you religious or not religious? Like if they go to Chabad, they're religious. If they come to Micah, they're not religious, or something like that. And I was trying to think of a better way to rephrase this. I used to say, are you observant as opposed to not observant of Jewish law, where we know the Chabad house, like Micah, accepts everybody kind of just totally where they are. But you actually said it beautifully there, which is, are you a material person or are you a spiritual person? Right?
Can I just change that up a bit?
Yeah.
I'll say like this. One of the challenges we have is that people put labels on people. And when you put labels on people, you're defining them without even knowing them. Until 200 years ago, Rabbi Flip, I know you're a Reformed rabbi, but until 200 something years ago, not even, there was no such a thing as a Reformed Jew, as a conservative Jew, as an Orthodox Jew. There was a Jew. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew. It didn't matter who you were. In the Chabad philosophy, we live life that way. I'm not Orthodox, you're not, he's not conservative, and you're not Reformed. We are all Jewish. Now, if you want to say how Jewish you are, I will say we are all observant. Some observe this way, some observe more, some observe less. We're all observant. I say everybody walks the shul at Chabad on Shabbos. Some walk from their home, some walk from their car, but everybody's walking on Shabbos to shul. My point is, we have to look at the good actions and the goodness in every Jew. We don't judge what you're not doing. We look what you are doing. You have such a great potential to reach such great heights. Rabbi Flip, do you know in the Corona era of the last 3 months, how many hundreds of people, and like you know and I know, are searching for more meaning and purpose in life because they had a lot more time to think about? And I think people came to have a stronger belief in God through all the conversations we had, because I believe that we all believe we can't change the outcome of the world, but we can change how we think about things in the world, because when we change how we think about things, then we're not as tense. And one of the things to think about is we are not alone. God is always with us. God is with us according to Hasidic teachings and the Baal Shem Tov's teachings, even in the Corona era. When he says, where is he? He's there. We don't see him. Why it's happening, I can't explain. But God loves us. He's with us every moment and all of the time. And when we believe that and we incorporate that in our teachings, then we come to realize, sure, we can't change the outcome, but we can change the way we look at things. And then we are happier people. So when I see another Jew walk into Chabad, or even anyone else who walks in, I try to find the potential goodness that's within them, what they're capable of doing. And really, that's what Esther and I do here. We came here almost 23 years ago, and we have been very fortunate in this most beautiful, loving community, changed drastically since we moved here. When we came here 1997, there were maybe 20% transient and 80% people that lived here for many years. And now I would say the numbers are, as we all know, the thousands and thousands of people that are moving here every year to become a very newcomers community. And over the years, we have learned to, we have been embraced by the community, and we have learned to embrace everyone that walks through our doors. We are fortunate that we have built this beautiful center. But again, it's just bricks and mortar. People say, Rabbi, what a beautiful building. I say, yeah, it's the people that walk in there that make it beautiful. It's the souls, it's the passion, it's the warmth, it's the feeling of, I want to be a good person. I want to make this world a better place. I am a Jew and I'm proud. That's what I really, and I'll tell you, Rabbi Flip, we also have Gentiles that come through our doors, and we talk to them about their potential. Everyone can make this world a godly place. That was the purpose of why did God make the world? He made the world so that he can dwell in this world, not because he wants to dwell. He made this world a dwelling place for us to reveal his presence. Where is God? Rabbi Mendel of Kutz said, the students, where is God? They said, God's everywhere. He said, no, God is where you let him into. Meaning to say, you want to feel God? Let him into your life. Chabad's motto is Judaism done joyfully. I don't want to be quoted on this, but maybe not. Why not? Better come to synagogue 3 times a year happily than come every week out of guilt. Because then it's become part of you. Because eventually 3 times will be 6 and 9 and so on and so forth. So Rabbi Flip, we do this life that we live honestly is not a job. It's a mission in life. I didn't know this. Someone told me of a country song called You Live the Life You Love the Life You Live. And that's what Esther and I are fortunate, together with our beautiful family, our children and our grandchildren, are fortunate to live here and to be a true lighthouse of Yiddishkeit, to fulfill the vision and the mission of what the Baal Shem Tov started several hundred years ago. And hopefully we will merit very soon to be together with the Baal Shem Tov and all these great holy tzaddikim with the coming of Mashiach. May it be speedily in our days, and you and I together will be in the front lines welcoming Mashiach to Nashville, Tennessee.
You know, this belief in God that we share, however our understandings may differ, it occurs to me, I also try to see the good in people, and that is probably why we're really good friends, because we just see our good qualities and kind of can cast aside our bad ones. But I have loved knowing you, and I hope our friendship continues to blossom and grow as Chabad does. And my best, of course, to Esther, and I hope your community stays strong through this. And I just want to thank you so much for playing so well midrashically with us and being a part of our Ancient Secrets program. And let's do other stuff together. Let's continue to learn and grow this community together.
Thank you, Rabbi Flip, for this opportunity. It's been a real present for us to be friends, Esther and I, to be friends with Lori and yourself over the years, and to have celebrated many simchos, bar and bat mitzvot, and weddings and other happy occasions. And I look at our friendship truly as a role model to many rabbis in many communities, where we can truly see beyond the differences and focus on what we have in common. And if the world can truly emulate what we are doing, as we try to be a lighthouse and a lamplighters and an example to others, I think this world will become a much better place. I look forward, Rabbi Flip, to continue our walks, to learn together and to inspire one another, and to really truly fulfill the vision of God's purpose of creation, of making this world a dwelling place for God. Thank you, Rabbi Flip. It's been wonderful to be on here with you.
Yes, may you go from strength to strength. And thank you all viewers out there. We look forward to having you join us next time on Ancient Secret, Congregation Micah's Zoomcast, where you meet God's actual cast.
Thank you, Rabbi Flip. L'chaim.
Zoom, 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 zoom.